flight, Mr. Bill Costen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Giving all honor to God, and I want to thank Al and his wife Diane for inviting me here. About maybe 30 years ago, I was on my way to the field, and I looked up and I noticed it was too windy to fly. The top of the trees was just blowing, so I got to the field, and I just left the balloon on the basket. I had 3 passengers, and I was going to have to give them the bad news that they weren't going to be able to fly. So we were waiting for them to show up, and sure enough, here they come. And I looked, and there were 3 old women. One was 89, one was 92, and one was 93. And they just hobbled across the field, and one of them said, "Good morning, Sonny, we're ready to go." And I said, "I hate to tell you this, but it's too windy to fly today." "What do you mean, Sonny? We ain't got much time left. Let's get this balloon up." And I was scared to death. I had just become a commercial pilot not too long before. And it was just really too windy. The flags were straight out. It was just too windy to fly. And she said, "Come on, Sonny, let's go." So I figured I'd lay the balloon out, and I let her see that the wind wouldn't allow you to make the balloon even be able to stand straight up. And would you know, God calmed the winds right down. And we got the balloon to stand up. I said, "Oh, Lord." Because I knew it wasn't going to stay calm. And so they climbed into the basket. No sooner we took off, we took off like a bat. And there were these 2,000-foot towers right in front of us, maybe a half mile ahead. So I knew I had to climb real quick to get over those towers. So I climbed all the way up to about 3,000 feet just to clear those towers. The next stop was downtown New Britain. No landing spots. In a balloon, you need, depending on how fast you're going, you need big fields to be able to land in. There were absolutely no landing spots. I was scared to death, and they were just loving the ride. They were saying, "Oh, wow, look at this, look at this, look at this." They literally loved the ride. And I'm just looking and looking, and I just wanted to get out of the sky some kind of way. And way up ahead, I saw a field, but the only problem, there was a lake on the other border in that field. But I had no choice. I had to try to land at the beginning of that field, and I knew the balloon was going to drag all the way across that field because there's no brakes on a balloon. So I aimed right at the beginning of that field, and we hit the ground so hard that the whole basket just completely tilted over, and we just started dragging like this toward the lake. And I fell completely on my back. And in the top of the balloon, that particular balloon I had was held in by Velcro. And there was a line that came all the way down to the basket of the balloon. So once you land, you pull that line, and it opens up the top of the balloon and lets all the air out. But still, you got so much fabric, it still pushes you. So when we hit the ground, I fell completely on my back. And all 3 ladies just fell on top of me. And I'm looking back like this, trying to pull the top of the balloon out as we're headed right toward the lake. And we're just bouncing on the ground and dragging. And I heard one of the ladies say, "Way to go, Sonny!" Everybody asks me, how did I get into ballooning? I'm originally from Omaha, Nebraska. I went to the University of Nebraska for 1 year, and I didn't like it, so during the summer before then, I was a porter on the Union Pacific Railroad. So that job lasted every summer during my college years. Prior to graduating from high school, I was an Eagle Scout, so a lot of people call me a Renaissance man now. But I accounted for being an Eagle Scout because you had to do so many different things to become an Eagle. So after I actually went to University of Nebraska, I hated it, and my uncle got me into college down into Morris Brown College in Atlanta, Georgia. While I was down there one day, my roommate, he says, you're kind of big not to be playing football. Why aren't you playing football? I said, well, I played football 2 years in high school, but, you know, sat on the bench for 2 years, so I didn't figure I was any good playing football. So he said, you better get on out there on that football field. So I went out, tried out for the team, and I made the team and earned a scholarship, full scholarship. So for the next 3 years, I missed my freshman year at Morris Brown. But for the next 3 years, I played football. And after each season, different scouts from different pro teams used to come and scout each of us. And each year, the Dallas Cowboys was scouting me. So they would time us. They would make sure that, you know, we had to take an aptitude test and everything. So to make a long story short, at the end of my senior year, I got drafted by the Buffalo Bills. I went up to Buffalo, lucked out, and scored the first touchdown for Buffalo that year.
Wow, wow.
The very next week, O.J. Simpson, I'm sure you remember him, he scored a touchdown and caught up, and there was a big newspaper article that I saved. It said, O.J. Simpson catches a pass, catches up with the leading scorer, Bill Costen. I was a hero for 1 week. After I got cut from Buffalo, they sent me to their farm team, which was Hartford, Connecticut, and that's how I got to Hartford in the first place. I tell my kids all the time, if I'd have never gotten cut from Buffalo, you wouldn't be here now. But I never would have come to Connecticut. I mean, I never heard of Connecticut. So everybody who played with the Hartford Knights, they had daytime jobs, and we played the games on weekends. And we always practiced at night. So I got a job with Travelers Insurance Company. I worked there as an insurance underwriter for the next 14 years. But about the third year at Travelers, you know, I was just totally bored. I was looking for something to replace football. And all of a sudden I got a knock on the door one day, and it was my cousin and his boss. And I said, hey, how you doing? So they came in, they said, let's start a balloon club. I said, what's a balloon? I mean, I'd never seen a balloon before. And they showed me a picture of a balloon. Evidently his boss was driving up the Jersey Turnpike, saw the Budweiser balloon in the parking lot, went and helped them pack up the balloon. They gave him a brochure. He brought the brochure, showed it to my cousin, and the three of us sat down. I said, well, what does the balloon do? He said, well, you fly in it. I said, you know, I asked all the questions that I've been answering for the last 39 years. I just couldn't conceive of what a balloon did or anything. So 6 of us got together and we started a balloon club. We ordered a balloon from the manufacturer. About 3 weeks later, they delivered the balloon. We all took out a joint loan at Farmington Savings Bank. And about 3 weeks later, they delivered the balloon. We drew straws to see who was going to fly first. Turned out with my cousin, they must have rigged it. My cousin, his boss, they got to fly first. But when they were laying out the balloon, I said, wow, look at this. And you know, I'm mesmerized just watching that balloon just take shape and you know, totally inflated. And so I take off, I said, wow, this is pretty good. So in the next few weeks, the idea was to get them trained, and then they would get their commercial license, and then train the other 4 of us. Well, unfortunately, that never happened. I mean, they took forever just to get their private license. So I talked to one of the guys in the club. I didn't have no money, but he had money. And the first thing I saw that very first day was the advertising possibilities, because the first balloon he showed me had Budweiser on the side. And I used to drink a lot of Budweiser. I said, wow, I can get a balloon, you know, and have Budweiser pay for it. So I looked at the commercial aspect of it. In the next few weeks, this was 1975, in the next few weeks, I came up with the idea of selling a balloon to the state of Connecticut. So I designed, I'm sitting there, travelers supposedly doing my work, but I was designing the state of Connecticut bicentennial balloon. Proposed it to the state of Connecticut, waiting on the approval of the state of Connecticut. Took about another 6 months. I'm waiting. I sent a letter to them and said, you know, what's up with, you know, what's going on? They said, we're still working on it. 6 months later, I see the balloon that I designed on the front page of the paper being dedicated by Governor Elagrasso back at the time. I mean, they literally went behind my back, got another pilot, and sold that balloon from another manufacturer. Wow. There's my balloon on the front page of the paper. So that was my welcome to ballooning. During that time, me and my partner, we started Sky Endeavors, and we bought another balloon. Wow. And the very first flight, my very first training flight, my instructor said, I like to train people and let them do all the work. So he literally let me fly the very first flight, and I didn't kill us. And I said, wow, this is pretty cool. So literally from that point on, I always flew the actual balloon. So you can fly a balloon without really any instruction, because he just told me what to do, and I did it and succeeded. My very second flight, back then there were very few pilots and very few instructors. Turned out my instructor for my first flight was one of the ones that went behind my back and got that state of Connecticut balloon. So he was no longer my instructor after 1 hour in the balloon. So the very next hour I got was from a pilot who was only, you know, he only had about 10 hours himself. We went up in his balloon up in Poughkeepsie, New York. I was flying. I was trying to get across these power lines and I couldn't get enough pressure to go up higher because something was wrong with the burner. So I made the decision to keep climbing higher and higher and higher. It turned out I went up to 6,000 feet and the burner cut off. And we started to drop, and I was trying to relight the burner, and I would relight it, give it one blast, and go back out. So I'm relighting, and I noticed my instructor, he was looking over the side of the balloon, and all of a sudden he panicked. He said, "Get me down from here, Bill! Get me down from here!" I said, "You're the instructor!" And I mean, we're just falling 6,000 feet. And like I said, I was able to relight it, get a blast, it would go back out. So this is my second flight. The first flight, the guy said, okay, when you hit the ground, just bend your knees a little, and then rip the top out. So we're coming down like crazy. We hit the ground so hard that we bounced 300, well, we hit the ground, and I noticed all the fabric was coming down like this. And as soon as it got all the way down, it started unraveling, and then it yanked us right back up in the sky. I said, I was on the ground, now I'm 300 feet back up in the sky. We bounced over a tree 3 times before I was able to I never was able to pull the top out, and we ended up against the trees. So that was my second flight. So there's no way I should be standing here right now. I mean, the experiences I've had in ballooning have been the best, literally the best times of my life. I mean, just being able over the years taking up people for their first flight. So many women and men have said it's been my lifelong dream to fly in balloons, and I've been able to satisfy that dream all over again. So the person who sold me the balloon gave me a dealership when I first designed that State of Connecticut bicentennial balloon. So I had a dealership. I remember I was at Brown University once, and this guy who had been trying to get a dealership for a while, we got to talking, and he says, oh, you're a pilot? You know, I mean, there were no black pilots, you know, back then. He said, oh, you're a pilot? I said, well, you know, I'm in training to be a pilot. But I thought you said you were a Raven dealer for balloons. I said, yeah. He said, you're a Raven dealer and you've never been up in a balloon? What's up with that? But my distributor, he saw the fact that I was first black pilot, Buffalo Bill. He said, oh, I can sell that. So he talked me into joining his racing circuit. I had to get my commercial license, but once I got my commercial license, he says, meet me down in Madison Square Garden tomorrow. So I said, okay, so I went down to Madison Square Garden. As soon as I walked into Madison Square Garden, there were 4 balloons inflated inside Madison Square Garden. And I was just totally blown away. I said, wow. And all the media came up and talking to me, oh, Buffalo Bill, oh, black pilot, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, I don't like this. So he told me about his racing circuit where he was going to send us all over the country at balloon races. His racing circuit consisted of 15 to 20 balloons at each particular race. The first balloon would take off. That was called the hair balloon. Usually that was the main sponsor of the event. They used to put sponsors' banners on the side of the balloon. And then all the other balloons would take off after. So the hair balloon would take off first, fly away, land, and whoever can land closest to that first balloon would win the race. And there was prize money, $3,000 for first place, $2,000 plus all my expenses were paid. And I flew all over the country. I mean, I would take long weekends, you know, because I was still working as an underwriter. But I used to fly in Las Vegas and Florida and Atlanta and Philadelphia, literally all over the country. And that's how I got started in ballooning. Over the years, I was always curious as to other black balloonists. Because I used to ask all the pilots, have you ever seen another black balloonist? Now, my cousin who introduced me to the sport, you know, when we first started the balloon club, he got his private license, so he was the first black private pilot. And then the 2 of us were flying one day, and we had a pretty hard landing, and he never flew again. And my father, who has never flown, and has always told me, I thought I taught you better than that. He said you should have followed your cousin and stopped flying. So to this day, we laugh about that. But I kept going, and my partner moved out to Connecticut. My wife and I bought another balloon, and we started Sky Endeavors on a full-time basis. And that's when my son and daughter were born. For the next few years, we were doing ballooning full-time. And then my wife finally said, somebody got to have a job in this household. So she went and started working for the state. don't talk to her afterwards. I want you to hear the true story. But ended up 3 or 4 balloons later. It's been 39 years. I just found out if I can last 1 more year, I'll be eligible for the Ed Yost Master Pilot. So I got to try to hang in there.